far too fast! Unable to engage it!
All hands up there!
From its Type 5 Heat Hawk to its monosensor eye and menacing demeanor, if you were to come face to face with this pink-eyed Cyclops, you knew you were in trouble. What's up, meta-nerds? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the weapon that turned the tide of battle for the newly formed Principle of Zeon, and the threat that kick-started the technological arms race in the development of a new kind of weapon, known as mobile suits. With the assistance of the Principality's own weapons developer Zeonic, the MS-06 Zaku 2 was released to great effectiveness during the Battle of Glomb, in the year of the Universal Century 0079.
5 Magellan-class ships destroyed! Enemy is a single red mobile suit! Multiple high heat sources closing in from below! They're mobile suits, sir!
This project was the culmination of years of secret development with the aid of Dr. Trenov Manyavsky to create the first mass-produced mobile suit, needed to meet the needs of Zeon's ever-growing military, in their fight for independence from the Earth Federation.
Upon its citizens residing in these sides,
military mumbo-jumbo.
Behave in a response.
The sixth iteration of Zeon's new mobile suit stood at a height of 17.5 meters, or just under 57.5 feet, making it over 9.5 Char Aznables tall, or taller than 2 adult orcas. At a width of 9.2 meters or 30 feet, the Zaku took up as much space as 2 of the Federation's Type 61 main battle tanks side by side, or about as wide as 2.5 Volkswagen Beetles. With a dry mass of 58.1 tons, an unencumbered MS-06C would weigh as much as 12 Zeon drop support craft, or 30 Rhinoceros. If we were attacked by a Zaku 2 here on Earth today, it would stand as tall as a 4-story building, weigh as much as 3 F-22 fighter jets, and take up as much room as 3 A-1 Abrams tanks side by side. This mech was launched during times of war and conflict and often symbolized the atrocities carried out by the Zeon loyalists over the years to come. Even when they were left abandoned on the battlefield, they stood as a moss-covered monument to what some were willing to do, all in the pursuit of freedom and power. The Zaku 2 was controlled by a single pilot, located in the chest section of the mobile suit. As dictated by protocol, all pilots were equipped with a spacesuit in the event of a hull breach, especially since the Zaku 2 was designed with space combat in mind. But the Zaku 2 is also used in numerous ground conflicts due to its mobility and versatility. It would see many improvements over its life in the field, including several heavily modified variants for specialized roles. This included a commander unit, cold weather operations, atmospheric flight, enhanced zero-gravity mobility, and many more. The most influential advancement made by Dr. Manyavsky and his team was the development of the ultra-compact fusion generator, using the rare helium-3 taken from Jupiter's atmosphere as a fuel source for both the mobile suit's movements, as well as their maneuvering thrusters. This cutting-edge generator was rated to produce 976 kilowatts, which allowed the Zaku to move unlike any other mobile suit of the time. At least for a while, until the accidental deployment of the RX-78-2 Gundam.
This must be the manual. Look at that. It's on.
Each unit was also equipped with a gimbaling twin-nozzle thruster pack, capable of producing over 41,000 kilograms or just over 90,000 pounds of thrust, making it more than capable against the Earth Federation Space Forces fighters, and even Salamis-class cruisers and Magellan-class battleships. Further agility and control is provided by a weaker thruster on the bottom of each of the mobile suit's feet, producing an additional 1,000 kilograms or about 2,200 pounds of thrust. For fine control in space, the Zaku 2 would make use of small RCS-style maneuvering jets to aid in altitude adjustments and for transferring the mobile suits in and out of hangar storage from their transports. These transports also helped to cut down on the precious helium-3 used by the Zakus during battle, allowing them to be delivered closer to the action, which meant more runtime for the pilots doing what they do best. On the ground, however, the Zaku 2 had to rely heavily on its mechanical legs to move through urban areas or even thick jungles. With a top speed of 88 km per hour or 55 miles per hour, and the benefit of its bipedal design, the Zaku could cover good ground, especially with the aid of its thruster pack. But with it also weighing over 40 metric tons, it only had a 180-degree turning speed of 1.7 seconds. One of the most identifiable features of the Zaku 2 are its external power pipes that connected to its power source and other key systems. Although often targeted as a weak spot, the idea behind this design was to allow the internals more room on the inside of its super hard steel alloy, making maintenance a lot easier for engineers, as well as allowing for parts to be easily upgraded or aided with the installation of expansions and conversions to specific types. All of these factors were intentionally designed to lower the costs and make it easier to work on. After all, this wasn't a one-off mobile suit, but a machine that could be used as a frontline fighting force with numbers en masse. And speaking of its super hard steel alloy armor, the Zaku featured a unique armor setup that helped with close quarters ramming attacks, as well as deflecting incoming projectiles. A large shoulder-mounted shield on the right arm and a spiked left pauldron accomplished just that. This allowed for different tactics to be used depending on the situation. Are you pushing up on an enemy position with oncoming fire? Then advance with your right shield. Are you deep in enemy territory with no more usable weapons? Then charge the nearest RGM-79 GM with your left and take theirs. Their upgrades were implemented from pilots using the MS-06 type, who thought that the suits would benefit from a more versatile armor pattern. These improvements were included from the Type C onward, making it a staple for many more mobile suit loadouts. Pilots of the A-type also wanted more firepower to go with Zeon's new war machines, moving from a 105mm machine gun up to a 120mm machine gun with a 100-round drum, along with the use of a brand new 280mm bazooka, able to fire multiple shots from a magazine before being discarded or reloaded. These were both ideal for engaging the space vessels of the time, or launching attacks on defenseless colonies that didn't believe in your cause. If you preferred to get up close and personal with your target, then the Type 5 Heat Hawk was for you. This used a superheated blade to cut through the enemy's vessels and even other mobile suits, with the energy being supplied directly from the reactor and transferred via the hands. Zaku 2's arsenal continues with several other weapons, including a flamethrower, body-mounted rocket pods, mobile suit-sized hand grenades, cluster bomb-style cracker grenades, a 175mm recoilless rifle taken directly off a tank, and a beam bazooka, also taken off a Musai-class deck gun. As for the history, the Zaku 2 is a vision of the future to come, with war no longer being fought just by crews of battleships or soldiers in ground conflicts. There was now a new machine capable of destroying entire cities, with each one only being piloted by a single person. And with the Principality of Zeon's ability to mass-produce these new types of vehicles, especially at the dangerous thresholds of war, the Earth Federation was taken by surprise, even with a space force over 3 times the size of Zeon's. The Zaku itself was the determining factor during the Battle of Glomb in the coming one-year war. It was the major force used to carry out the attacks of the colony of Side 2, turning that whole colony into a mega bomb, as it was forced at a Lagrange point 4 and set on a collision course with Earth during Operation British, which resulted in the deaths of billions. The MS-06 type was barely an upgrade when compared to its predecessor, the MS-05 Zaku 1. We don't see big changes until the MS-06 type. This came from that essential pilot feedback that we spoke about earlier, and a complete overhaul of almost all systems, including the upgrades and weapons. Pre-production models were designated MS-06A, with just enough features to satisfy Zeon High Command, who had almost scrapped the project due to a lack of results. After further improvements, the full mass production units received the C-type designation and began to see action. These were used during the initial stages of the one-year war, until all were refitted even further into the MS-06F. Perhaps the most famous pilot of the Zaku 2 was the fabled Red Comet himself, Char Aznable. Char's mysterious past and his incredible skill as a tactician and mobile suit pilot saw him rise through the ranks of the Zeon military, with distinction from the generals of the Zabi family themselves, the ones who had orchestrated this new war and pushed for the freedom of all space noids from the Earth sphere. Char piloted a commander variant of the Zaku 2 known as the MS-06S. These commander units were identified by their distinct communications antenna located on the head, and their improved performance. They were only given to higher-ranking pilots or aces, with Char sporting a red and maroon livery. This paired with an increased thruster output of at least 30%, and with the clever use of terrain and debris to boost off, allowed it to achieve speeds 3 times greater than your standard Zaku 2. Other notable pilots included aces Johnny Raiden, along with the Black Tri-Stars, Lieutenant Gaia, Lieutenant Junior Grade Ortega, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Mash. All members of the Tri-Stars were involved in the development of the entire mobile suit program, acting as test pilots for each new iteration. This means they had the most real-time flight hours out of anyone when the MS-06 was rolled out, but they still managed to get outshined by the infamous Red Comet. Aside from the MS-06S commander type, other variants proved to be required when filling a specialized role. As for general infantry, however, the aforementioned MS-06F received even further improvements, increasing its performance and armament. The Type F was the mobile suit that saw the most units created, and formed the backbone of Zeon's new army. Somehow, MS-06F was allowed to perform even better after a signing of a treaty in Scott City, Antarctica, banning the use of sides as mega bombs, as well as the use of nuclear weapons. This meant that the heavy radiation shielding could be removed from much of the mobile suit, making it even lighter and faster. The Type F would see another round of modifications, with the development of the newer MS-06F2. This new Zaku came with a new look, sporting heavier armor, pilot protection, and a more powerful Minyovsky generator. With increasing roles being pushed to the Zaku, another refresh came with a new design and even more armor. Towards the end of the Universal Century 0079, the MS-06 FZ Zaku 2 Kai was put into service. This redesign featured 2 helmet styles, a new cockpit, and even more weapon options and greater thrust acceleration, resulting in a new top land speed of 103 km per hour, or 64 miles per hour. But these all came with the drastic drawback that the units could only operate for half the time of the original Zaku, despite a lighter weight armor material that was more resistant to beam weapon attacks and larger fuel tanks. So that's it for its history and breakdown, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. The Zaku was created by mechanical designer Kunio Okawara as the villain's expendable army in the original 1979 anime Mobile Suit Gundam. The Zakus were seen in the very first episode of the show, and were the expendable force for the villains to throw at the RX-78-2 Gundam. The director of the show, Yoshiyuki Tomino, had actually designed his own version of the Zaku, but it was replaced by Okawara's design and only the name remained. The Zaku also makes several appearances throughout the Gundam universe and timelines, in one form or another. Several other shows take place in alternate realities, but still feature a Zaku-like villain, sometimes even dressed up in the same green color scheme. So that's it for the Zaku 2. If you want to connect with us on social media, find ways that you can help support this channel for free, or check out our Patreon and PayPal, be sure to check out the links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon, but most important of all, remember, there is hope between the stars.